if you had to choose, um, I don't know if you've been asked this question before, probably, but it's a bit on the nose. If you suspended your atheism, right, just for this question, which religion would you find is most convincing that you would probabilistically um, put your vote on?
So it's not really clear that you have to suspend your atheism in order to join a religion, right? It's at least possible that you can be Hindu and an atheist, because after
Yeah,
all, there are Hindu
yeah,
schools
yeah.
that were atheistic, like the Chavaks. Admittedly, they disappeared in the 13th century, and it's not like there's a contemporary school that replaced them, but there could be. Right?
Mm.
Similarly, there are stories about people practicing Buddhism who don't believe in gods. I mean, it's kind of tricky because lots of versions of Buddhism have lots of gods, and then there are some that kind of treat the Buddha as a kind of God incarnate. But I think that there are schools of Buddhism that are just outright atheistic as well. And there are other things that you can count as religions that will go the
So
same way. So,
yeah,
so that's one thing. Then there's this other question about whether you can participate in a religion without believing its teachings. So I mean, Robin Lepedvin is one person who's written quite a lot of stuff about religious fictionalism. And the idea is that maybe you can get the benefits of participating in religion without having any of the beliefs. And so that's another avenue that will be open to atheists, would be to now, of course, there's some trickiness here because certain kinds of religious believers might not want to have anything to do with people who are actually atheists and who are just kind of engaged in a kind of pretense in order to get the benefits of belonging to the religion,
yeah.
right? But but there are going to be some parts of even Christianity who are just kind of fine with that. Indeed, there are these questions that more fundamentalists will ask about certain parts of the Anglican Church, for example, about whether the people actually really are believers at all, right? Whether they aren't actually already fictionalists about Christianity. And so that kind of part of the Anglican Church would be could be quite hospitable to atheists.
Mm. And in terms of yeah, I mean that's a really important distinction that you've made in Buddhism in particular. If it were down to the monotheisms, I should have been more specific in fairness. When it comes down to the monotheisms, and in that case, you would quite literally have to suspend it. If you were to join the club,
Mm.
of course. Um, yeah, which one would you vote
Well,
for
well,
at a probability?
well. Again, there's still this question about whether Hinduism is ultimately monotheistic or not. It's just that perhaps there's this kind of impersonal absolute, right? And whether we should think of that as a monotheistic God or not is contentious, right? And if it comes down to choice between personal God and impersonal God, impersonal principle or something like that, I suspect that lots of atheists are going to lean towards the latter. Okay, so there's this kind of impersonal principle that stands at the origin of things, rather than there's this person that stands at the origin of things, right? Um, so there's still the possibility. Now you might say, okay, so I want to refine the question further. Suppose that you're going to go for a personal God. Which one are you going to go for? So that we've kind of narrowed it down
Yeah.
more or less to the Abrahamic religions now. Is it, Judaism? Is it going to be Christianity? Is it going to be Islam? If so, which variant of one of those? Or is it going to be something else? Because there are still other things, both within the Abrahamic religions, right, and outside. But those are the kind of, let's narrow it down further. It's a choice out of those three. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
now I'm just not going to choose, right? I mean, I do think that there are particular problems about incarnation and Trinity that are not um, particularly attractive. And so you might think that it would be a choice out of the other two, just on the kind of purity of theory grounds. But you'd have to remember these are institutions with histories as well. And I don't know, I don't really feel much attraction to joining any of them.
So would you say on an equal basis, whether Islam, Judaism, or Christianity, on a basic level, you would, in the slightest, feel any kind of inclination to join one over the other?
No,
I guess that's kind of an
yeah,
agnostic viewpoint.
yeah, yeah. So, but I also have no reason to, I mean, I've got no inclination to favour that kind of personal God.
Yeah.
Taking it that most people in those three religions think that God's a person over the kind of more impersonal Eastern approaches where they're monotheistic. I don't see any reason to favour that either.